Hi, everyone, and a very warm welcome to the Vet Method podcast. My name is Sanjay Mangabai, and I'm here in the wonderful cathedral city of Salisbury in the southwest of England. And today I'm delighted to be joined by Leni Kaplan. Hi, Leni, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So, whereabouts are you today?
I am in the US in New York State.
Okay, and what's the weather like there now?
Terrible. We're going through a heat wave, as is most of the country, so I don't want to whine too much, but the humidity, holy Moses, between the temperature and the humidity, it's been pretty unbearable.
Ah, and we're having one of
Yeah.
those rare sunny days in the UK, so
Ooh,
a little bit different.
nice.
Good.
Yeah.
So a little bit about Leni. She has been a small animal practitioner for 21 years, including working in emergency and general practice. And she has been teaching future veterinarians since 2014. And Leni earned her professional life coach certification a few years ago in 2017. So the title of the podcast is Falling Back in Love with VetMed. And we're going to talk about that for the next few minutes. Okay, Leni, our time starts now. So, question number one, who is your ideal client?
So my ideal client, honestly, is right attached to my own heartstrings because I was her at one point. So usually veterinarians, veterinary technicians, anyone really in the vet profession, though obviously I've walked mostly in the shoes as a veterinarian,
Mm-hmm.
people are, high achievers, type A people, the people that never put themselves first. We burn the candle at way too many ends. We're doing too many things, and we honestly max ourselves out so much that
Mm-hmm.
we forget how to enjoy anything, either at work or at home. And that's the people I like to work with, is to remind them of who they are. And because of that, and because they'll start to self-care, they will then fall back in love with their profession.
Fantastic. So it's basically all people in the veterinary team, okay?
Yes.
Especially people with that type A personality, people who like to get things right, kind of perfectionist type of people. And as we know, practices tend to be really chaotic and busy and places of distraction. Um,
Yes.
okay, so
Mhm.
it's everyone in that environment. Fantastic.
Much.
That
Yeah.
leads us that leads us nicely onto question number two. What's the biggest problem your clients face, and how do you help them solve it?
They face many problems. Honestly, they are, I know. I wish it was simple, but it's all bundled up together. So I see that overwhelm is one of the biggest problems, feeling like they're always behind, therefore they're always stressed, they're always anxious.
Mhm.
And let's be honest, sometimes you are actually like, you have a short fuse. So things that normally wouldn't bother you start to completely, get blown out of proportion. Never taking time for themselves, forgetting who they once were,
Mhm.
managing their time. So it's sort of all of it is together. And what my goal is, at least one person at a time, though I'm going to try and expand this a little bit more. If I can get one person, even one person on a veterinary team, to decrease their anxiety and their overwhelm, they're going to actually perform better both at work and at home. That's going to improve their relationships. And I'm hoping that that will be a domino effect, right? So if they don't react to a given situation and they can role model for someone else, then someone else won't get triggered, and we'll kind of just stop that path that seems to keep happening.
Mhm.
And then I'll just, again, do what we want to do. Because honestly, I like to say most of us are in it because we love the animals. So we have so much in common, right, with the people we work with.
Right.
And I want everyone to continue to love that. And as you and I briefly discussed, the rate of attrition is frightening. There are stellar veterinarians and honestly veterinary technicians who leave the profession. It breaks my heart every single time, because these are the people we need to stay in the profession. So I want to help them so that they really remember why they got into this in the first place.
Yeah, fantastic. So some of the symptoms, some of the, the problem they face is this feeling of anxiety, of overwhelm, maybe not
Yeah.
understanding why they feel like that, and having this mismatch of expectations and the reality that they find themselves in in veterinary medicine. Certainly that happened to me. I've been a vet for 32
Me
years or
too.
so.
And you
And
know
early
what's
on,
sad? A lot of people think they're the only one. They feel, they look at the hospital, they look at their colleagues and everyone else, they seem to be doing it just fine. They seem to get their calls done. They seem to get their records done. I'm like, nope, everyone is battling the same thing. So that's another thing, is just making this not normal, but normal to a point that we're not afraid to talk about it. And therefore we can take action about it.
absolutely. That's so important. Thank you. We're getting on to question number 3. What are the typical symptoms that people experience with that problem? They're kind of pain points.
Pain points. One I'll be honest about, which I think might trigger some people, but I've been there, done that. So I'm not throwing any stones at glass houses. I think we like to blame a lot of other people and never take responsibility for what our role is. Work made me stay late. I had to pick up the kids. I had to do this. I had to do that. And honestly, at some point, you need to step back and say, okay, what can I change to make something a little bit better, a little bit easier in my life? We have to redefine what perfection is. Other symptoms, so to speak, is they don't say no. Say, well, it wasn't my fault. Well, it was, because you could have just said no. It's 2 letters. It is hard to do, but little things like that are going to make a huge difference. So some of the things I think I wrote, this will be an edit out.
Yeah.
What are the typical, this is another huge one. Well, I might have mentioned this. So worrying about and prioritizing everyone else before yourself. Like at some point, if you're not taking care of yourself, you're not going to take care of everyone else.
Right.
And the big one, which was a huge one for me, was not really separating my life from work. So even when I was off, I was checking emails, I was responding to texts, I was thinking about patients or thinking about what's coming up and what I have to do. And because I was never present in the moment, which honestly takes away from you, it takes away from your family, your personal time. And if you can't refill your cup, you're just going to be depleted before the day even starts.
Absolutely. So there's quite a lot in there. So you started off with, tending to blame everything else. So I guess with that, it's about maybe, we don't take the time to think about what's going on and evaluate, stuff. And then we get this feeling of overwhelm and anxiety that you talked about. There's so much to put in there, and I'm sorry that we don't have the time to go into each thing. But that's so important. Thank you. Question number 4. What are the common mistakes that people make when trying to solve their problem? The things they thought were going to work, the things they try but fail.
Okay, I'm looking again. I think, again, it's the saying things like, I'm going to leave work at work, and then not actually doing it. Or saying, I'm going to go home and I'm going to take care of me, and then they're not actually doing that. Trying to, again, set a boundary, but they don't set the boundary. So they think that they're doing it. Communication's a big one, is just saying, no, I can't, and thinking that people can read your mind or something similar.
Yeah. So that's about being a kind of people pleaser, wanting to do everything and thinking that you can do everything. And actually not thinking that, it's going to take too much time, I'm going to get stressed out with it, and just saying no, like you say. That's really, really good advice. Thank you.
And I think you just triggered something for me. I think a big mistake is assuming that everyone else is going to get mad or disown you. She's not a team player if you're actually advocating for yourself. But again, that's where you get the opportunity to be a role model.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Right. Thank you. On to question number 5. What is one valuable free action that someone listening to this can implement that will help them solve that problem? What's your top tip?
My top tip. I love this topic. I've handed it out to other people. I think some people actually do embrace it and do it, which is lovely. So I think everybody, every single day, needs to carve out personal protected time. So I call it PPT. and you pick when this is. And honestly, I advocate for at least it being 20 minutes. So it's not like a crazy amount that I'm recommending. Obviously, if you can do more than that, that's even better. That is yours. It is untouched. Protected means nothing. So if you have kids, maybe your personal protected time is after the kids go to bed. Basically sit. You are not allowed to do anything. My rule is nothing related to vet medicine. So if you read, stare at the wall, take a walk, exercise, shower, meditate, whatever you need to do that is going to reboot you for only 20 minutes or more, that's fine. I did not used to do this, but my personal protected time is from 9:30 at night until 6 a.m. So goes on silent, I think at like 8 or 8:30 p.m. So whether or not text, call me, whatever, I have no idea. I don't check it. It doesn't matter. I like to go to bed early. So for me, I have like 1 hour to kind of like relax, get ready for bed. I honestly read in bed every single night, and that is untouched. Every blue moon, there's always an exception to every guideline. So yes, I'm not going to say that 100% of the time I can actually adhere to this, but I would say that 98 to 99% of the time I really do. It's got to be an exceptional emergency that my personal protected time gets devoted to someone else.
Absolutely, and that's so important. So you mentioned PPT, protected personal time, at least 20 minutes. It's kind of like when I started practice, when I owned my own business, you paid everyone else, and then you kind of paid yourself last if there was something left over. And it's kind of like pay myself first, and then I'll manage with the rest. So maybe it's about carving out that personal time at the big, that maybe at the beginning of the day, because, I like to go for a run, and that's my time first thing in the morning. But, if you prioritize that time, is what you're saying, time to just take time for yourself, then let the day fill up with other stuff. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really good tip. Thank you.
Yeah.
Great. So let's go on to question number 6. Only 2 questions to go. What's one valuable free resource that you can direct people to that will further help?
I think right now I'm going to direct them to my website, which is kaplancoaching.com. And I have a blog. So I kind of write about these types of topics. I have a bunch coming out, but I have some like leaving emotional work at work, because it's so easy, again, like if you have a stressful day or something upset you, to not be able to take that, to not leave it at work and you take it home with you. So there's information there. I do post also on Instagram. So I try to do that. I'm going to have some courses coming out. And again, I can always do consultations about coaching, and because sometimes it is a team effort, especially in a veterinary hospital. You can do as much as you can do as an individual, and that's exactly what I want. But imagine if we can get the whole team on board and really change everyone's mindsets about expectations and boundaries. And prioritizing yourself. If everyone is happier, just think of how much more productive, less medical mistakes, better care for the animals, the patients. It ripples, and it's so nice.
Absolutely. So quite a few resources there, and a good place to start is your website, which is kaplancoaching.com, and we'll have a link for that on the podcast. Thank you. And finally, question number 7. What's the one question, Leni, that I should have asked you that I didn't?
So I ask myself this sometimes, so I guess I'll use this question is, if I could do it over again, what would I do differently? So, and I think knowing what I know now, I would definitely reprioritize like all the practices I put into place now. I honestly would not have waited 16 years to put into place. So I didn't hit a point where honestly, I'm like everyone else. Like I've gone through why did I become a vet? And was this the right career choice? And what can I do? And once I actually stepped back and I started like doing all of this other stuff, I'm like, oh my gosh, I love being a vet. I really do. I love it. I love the animals. I love working with people that love the animals as much as I do. And I wish I would have done this way sooner. So now I'm sort of I'm hoping to get the people that haven't hit the bottom, so to speak, that I hit. I'm trying to I'm trying to cushion that and then actually like almost like a trampoline, bounce them back up so that you ever hit that, but they remember why they got to where they were in the first place.
That's a very worthwhile mission, Leni. So, yeah, if we could all talk to ourselves, to our younger selves, wouldn't that be great? And say, don't make. But we have an opportunity. You have an opportunity to help people at the stage that you were at years ago, but there wasn't a resource like you're providing now. So fantastic. Thank you.
And can I finish with one thought that I just had to? I think when I talk to some people about this, they are so overwhelmed. They just feel like I absolutely cannot see how I can do anything. And again, I feel like the personal protected time is a very tiny step. But here's what I'll tell people. When you're going to run a marathon, you're not going to open your door after never having run and do a 26.2. You're not going to do that, right? So you start with a walk, and then ultimately a walk run, and then you're going to up to maybe more running, and then you're going to increase the time you're running and the distance you're running. So this is the same way. We're not going to go from like 0, I haven't been taking care of myself, I'm overwhelmed, to suddenly being never overwhelmed in anything. So it's, hey, like this is going to be a baby step type process, but the payoff is worth it. And until you start, right, until you get off your couch and walk, even or a half mile, you're not going to get anywhere towards running the marathon.
Absolutely. So it's practicing those techniques, those steps that you're describing, and not just something that's going to just overnight change, but it's doing them consistently, and you're building up your not so much. Well, I would imagine in the marathon analogy, building up your endurance and your fitness, and we do that with VetMed.
So I don't want people to feel so overwhelmed that they're like, forget it, I passed the point of no return, because that's not true.
Absolutely. Wow. Thanks. There's so much in there. You gave us some really valuable insights about how to leave work at work was one of the important things, and separate it from personal time, so that you protect that personal time. You talked about how how we can learn to stop resenting and maybe even dreading work and start enjoying this wonderful profession that we have. And that, a good quote from your website, actually, that I've adapted is you also that knowing that you don't have to live to work, but that you can work to live a fulfilling life. And I'm sure our listeners will take away some really valuable insights. And once again, I just want to say thank you, Leni, for your time today.
No, you're very welcome. Thanks for having me.